Hi everyone, welcome to Homemakers. Today we're going to be working on a chain stitch notebook. In your kit you should have a book cover, you should have 18 blank pages, you should have this template, you'll have a needle that's taped down to a card. This is an awl for poking holes, and then you're also going to have some thread for binding your book. So I've already created the cover for you. This is Bristol board, which is kind of like cardstock, but it's used for art. And then the printed paper is Lokta paper. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. It's L-O-K-T-A. It's comes from the Lokta bush from Nepal. So this is Nepalese paper. And they make really pretty prints, and it's nice and smooth for different projects. So I have already folded your cover, so this is going to be your spine. And to start off, you're going to go ahead and cut these out. So what you will end up with is two templates. This one with the 3 rows of holes is your spine template, so that's going to be, you're going to put that here and punch your holes. And then this one we're going to use for our signatures. So the first thing I'm going to do is separate out my paper. So you should have 18 sheets. And we're going to make 3 signatures. So we're going to separate this into 3 piles of 6 sheets of paper. Okay, so I've got my 3 piles, and we are going to fold those in half. You may want to grab a pencil for this. Okay, so to fold these in half evenly, we're just going to make sure that the top corners match up. I usually put my left hand over here, press down in the middle, and then go out. So this isn't necessary and you don't have one in your kit, but if you do have one of these awls, if you do paper crafts, you can run that along the edges just to flatten it out. And I'm going to mark this first one as A. Let's see if you can use this. Yeah, you could probably use this. Just use the flat end. This one's going to be B. Does leave a little bit of a mark, but seems like it comes off. Alright, so this is going to be C. Okay, so the way this works is they're going to be lined up in your spine here, but in order to make the chain, the stitches need to be a little bit different for B than they do with C. And we're actually going to sew in letter B first. But the first thing we're going to do is punch some holes. So I'm going to grab something to put my paper on. Okay, so I'm going to grab A. And then I'm going to grab this one for the signature. So you can see with lines A and C, your holes are going to end here. This is going to line up with the inside of the book. And B will have a couple extra holes, so we'll do that last. All right, so I'm going to fold this in half to make it a little bit easier. And I'm going to open up A to the center. Make sure this is all the pages are lined up. And then put this right in here, line it up, and that is where the holes are going to go. So I'm going to poke. I'm actually going to go at a little bit of an angle, just to make sure that I go all the way through with these. So if you hold it like this, leave these pages kind of folded over your hand, and go in at about a 45-degree angle, you should be able to punch through these holes. And you don't want to go, stick this all the way to the thickest part of the awl. Just as soon as you feel it go through all the pages, you can stop. Okay, so I'm on A, so important to remember that you stop here. Don't keep going. I've marked these with a highlighter so I can try to remember not to go further than that. So this is A. I've got all my holes. And I'm going to do C, which is going to be the same. Alright, so I've got my template in here. Try and make sure your pages are even, and then go ahead and punch all of these holes. And this was C, so I'm going to stop, put that with A, and then I've got B. So same thing, we're just going to add a couple of extra holes. Alright, so for B, we're going to put this hole here, and then where this little mark is, I added, I'm going to put one more little hole. So in the original book that I did, it didn't have this extra hole, but we're going to use that as an anchor for our stitches. Okay, so put these back in order. Adjust this, sorry. A, B, and C. So we are going to start with B. So you can put A and C aside. Oh, we also need to punch our holes here. So get the spine template, which is this one with all of the 3 rows of holes. and line that up in between your folds and just punch through each one of these, and you just need to just barely get through the cover. If you have trouble lining up your awl, you can kind of come in at an angle and then pick it up. And you can temporarily tape this down too. I'm actually going to do that with this tape that was on my needle, just so it doesn't move around. So bookbinding, there's a lot of measuring and a lot of hole punching. And the first time I did this, I actually did it with a hardcover, and it was really hard to punch through the cardboard. So we're making a soft cover today that's a little bit easier to work with. And if your holes aren't perfect, don't worry about it. We're going to cover all of this up with stitches anyway, so I'm not really going to notice it. So there is our spine. You can erase this line. It's just something I had there to measure out where I needed to fold your spine pieces. Okay, so as you can see, this should match up with the holes that we did in our signature. So B goes in the middle and it's got those 2 extra holes, and then we've got A and C here. So I've got my B signature, and we're going to start with that one. I'm going to use 2 different colors of thread today, just so you can see the difference between the stitches. Okay, so I'm going to start with brown. So we don't tie a knot because that would be too bulky to go through all the holes. So if you can, just go back, pull your needle down a little bit to where you have a couple of inches, and then you're going to put your needle through the thread. I'll try to unravel it a little bit. Okay, so I'm putting it through and pulling on it, and that kind of creates a knot without adding the bulk of a knot, and it should stay put. Okay, so we're going to start on the inside, and we're going to start on the bottom and work our way up. So I'm going to go through We're going through the very bottom hole, and we're going from the inside to the outside through the cover. Make sure that you're going through the right hole. I'm going to pull this, leave yourself a little tail, and then we're going to go in through the next hole, which is right here. And you may have to go through your cover first and then find the holes in the paper. So I'm going back in. So on the outside you should have a little stitch that looks like that. And I'm going to go ahead and just tie this off. Actually, I'm going to wait to tie this off until I get my next one in. Okay. So just make sure this stays out of the way. You're going to go up here to the next one and out again. Okay. So I'm going to pull on this to make sure it's tight. Now when you pull, it's really important that you pull sideways. So you can either pull this way or this way depending on what you're stitching. If you pull up like this, it just cuts through the hole and you'll end up going back to here. So you'll tear the paper. So just do this to make sure that your stitch is tight. And then we're going to go through this stitch. And that is what makes our first loop on the chain. And we're going to go back through the same hole that we started with. Okay, and that makes our first loop in the chain. Okay, so now that this is a little more secure, it's not flopping around, now I'm going to go ahead and tie this off. And actually, I'm going to go under here and tie it if I can. Yeah, that'll just make it a little neater if you can fit it there. If not, it's not a big deal. And I'll do a double knot. I'll use my needle to pick this up a little bit. So just going through here again. So I had a very short tail, so it's a little bit harder. Cut this and keep going. So the next stitches are the same as the last one. I'm going to go through this hole, make sure I come out the right hole. It should be right above this link here, and just go under both of these threads, and see that makes another link in the chain. Go through the same hole. When you go back through, try not to split the thread. It just can make it a little bit messy. Alright, so you can see that creates our next link, and we're just going to keep going all the way up the book. Okay, so we're on our last stitch here at the top. So here's our last chain link, and we'll go back through, and we will tie this off. I'm just going to put my needle under here, and loop it back through. I'll go ahead and do it twice. Once should hold it, but I always get paranoid about these knots, so I'm going to do 2. Let's see. Accidentally did something weird there, so I'm just going to cut this off. Okay. Right, so here's our first signature in our book, and now we're going to move on to the other 2. So I'm going to do A. It doesn't matter which one you do first. So you will need another piece of thread, so grab one of your threads and thread your needle. And I'm just trying to do my fake knot here. It's easier with a thicker thread. Okay. So we're going to put A in front of B, and we're going to go out, again starting at the bottom, and just leave a little bit of a tail on the inside to tie it off. And hold it so it doesn't fall off like it just did with me. And we're going to do our loops starting with this down here. So the little stitch that we first started with. Alright, so you can see our loop on the side forming there. Just remember, it's not on this first loop, it's on this little straight stitch that we started with. And just go back like we did with the other pages. Let's see. Try and get it back through. The first one is always kind of weird. And I'm pulling it to the side just to make sure I've got my stitch tight. Okay, I'm not going to tie this off here. I'm going to wait until the next one. So go through, just jump up one hole, so this is what it looks like on the outside. And we're going to go ahead and go through this first link in the middle here. So we started with this little straight stitch, and now we're going to jump up to this one. So you can see it's making another little link in the chain, and we go back through, find the holes. This is always the trickiest part. It gets a little bit easier once you put a knot in it. These first couple stitches are always weird. Okay. Okay, so again, to tighten this, just make sure you pull sideways. once you've got it all tightened up, you can go ahead and do your knot. And same thing as last time. I'm going to go under this stitch and do my knot here. But you can tie it off with this longer one as well if it's easier. It doesn't matter too much. Okay, so that's a double knotted. And I'm just going to keep going. So we've got 2 links out here. I'm going to move up to the next hole. So this will be our next stitch to go under. So we're going to be going under this one. And we're just going to continue all the way up. So just remember as you're going, you don't want to go to the one right next to the hole where you're at, because then you just end up with this, which you don't really see. So if you do that, just go back. And you want to jump to the one down here, not the one right next to it. Okay, so we're on our last one. So we'll go here. And that'll be it. So they all end up at the same place. Okay, so just make sure that's secure in there, and then go under here to tie a knot. Alright, so we're 2/3 of the way down. We've got one more signature to put in here, and that's going to be C, and that is going to be exactly the same as the one that we just did, except coming from the other side. I've got my needle threaded, so I'm going to do C. So that'll go in the back, and just make sure your pages are lined up, and again starting at the bottom hole and going out. Leave yourself a little tail. And we are going to go through the same hole that we did last time, except we're going the other direction. So this little straight stitch at the bottom, just like we started with the last one, we're going to start there again, except we're coming out this way. So then it gives you that look, kind of looks like leaves. Gives you one of those links on the other side. I'm going to go back through. Scissors drive me nuts. Okay. Okay, so we've got our first hole, and now I'm going to go to the next one. Where are you? There we go. So make sure your thread is where you need it to be after each stitch, because they start to sort of go in weird directions and then you end up with funky knots. Okay. So we're going to go one down, remember, not the one right next to it, so one down, and just go under, just under the brown. Okay, and then you'll come over and go back. So just make sure that your stitches look good on the other side. If you need to tighten them up, go ahead and do that. If not, you can do your knot. I'm just going to do one knot so I can keep going. Go back out. And the good thing about these needles is they're pretty blunt, so if you do stab yourself, hopefully it won't hurt too badly. It's better to use blunt needles with bookbinding just so you don't rip up your holes. Alright, so this is our very last stitch. I'm going to tie this off. And we are done. So this is what your spine should look like. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed this project. I do have some bookbinding classes coming up in March. We're going to do this again in the summer at Adult Craft Night, and then I have some other things planned for the fall. So just stay tuned and keep an eye on the calendar, and I will see you next time.